On .NET, we are looking at the power of OData and Blazor together to build rich APIs that use C# on the client and on the server. You'll want to check this one out. Hello, and welcome to another episode of On.NET. My name is Jeremy Lickness, and I'm here today with Hassan, and we're going to cover two powerful technologies that I love. We already had an episode talking about OData, and OData is what I would call sort of the, I know we don't like head-to-head comparisons, but it's like the GraphQL that has been around a lot longer than GraphQL, but the capabilities are very similar. And we're going to look at some advanced features of that and combine that with Blazor, which is .NET running in the browser without data plugins. So before we dive into this awesome topic, tell us a little bit about what you do at Microsoft.
Hi, Jeremy. It's nice to meet you again. My name is Hassan Habib. I am a software engineer here at Microsoft. I work at the CELA organization. We are the legal system here at Microsoft. We handle all internal legal matters, applications, internal systems, and we get an opportunity to work with a lot of cool technologies, and every once in a while we get so excited about these technologies we want to tell the whole world about what it's capable of.
Well, that's awesome. So it's not even a case that you're on the team building. You're using these to build business applications. You're not building the tool itself, but leveraging the tool. So sort of tales from the actual real world usage of it.
Yep.
So tell me about what you've brought today.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I couldn't thank people enough for the comments and the feedback and the responses on our first video. That's what really made us want to do more of OData and talk more about such powerful technology. Like you said, Jeremy, there's competitor technologies in the market. This is a almost 13, 14-year-old technology that handles processes that support all billions of users, Microsoft Office, SharePoint. If you're using Microsoft Teams, all of this is building on top of OData, like Microsoft Graph and other technologies. And some of the comments that I got, a lot of people started to adapt OData in their actual application inside and outside of Microsoft. And some people wanted to leverage OData for more functionality and leverage the power of OData, things like count. How do I get the count of data? How do I get a next link out of OData? How do I leverage what this amazing technology is capable of doing, with the 4 lines of code?
Sure.
So today I'm coming here to tell people, here's how to take OData with something called the EDM model, which is Entity Data Model. It's like a mapper that's going to leverage that technology and provide the functionality that they're looking for with their day-to-day applications.
Awesome. Let's check it out. Tell us more about EDM and how we would approach that.
Absolutely. So EDM stands for Entity Data Model. It's a pattern or technology that OData relies on to map whatever data source you have into something that OData engine can understand. So it provides you with the kind of functionality and filtering and expansion and count and all the kinds of good stuff that I'm going to show you today, regardless what your data source is. And this is a great opportunity to start talking about something. A lot of people think that OData actually is dependent on the entity framework. That's not true. You could have any data source that we're going to show in different episodes other than this one. You can have any data source out there and you can still map that and have OData understand what this is. So there's no dependency there on the entity framework at all. It's good to leverage that technology. You don't have to use it if you don't want to.
Okay, sounds great.
So all right, so let's jump in. Remember last time, remember last time we had the Washington Schools API. I'm just going to run it real quick and show you that it's still running the exact same way, and I hope people can clone that repository on their computers and try it themselves. It should be a plug and play. Just run the application and it should just work. From the API, I could still go in and say, give me all the students that I have. And then I could also do some good OData stuff like question mark, select, give me just the name, and I'll go and filter the name and do all the kind of stuff that we were doing last time.
Okay.
But there's a trick here. You know, some people say, what if I want to know, to measure how much data is coming in? I don't want to pull all the data. Like say you have 2 million records, and you want to know how many records are in your database without you having to pull all these records with all that
Right,
data.
don't pull down the whole
Yeah,
world
I just
and
want
then
to.
count
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I just want to do the count. You know, how can I do that on the server instead of having to iterate? So if you do something like this, count equal true, what's going to happen is it's not going to give you anything. And I'm going to tell you now why it's not going to give you anything. Because OData builds a wrapper. When you use ADM, it builds a wrapper around your data model. And that wrapper gives you that metadata that you need to use to know count, what's the next link, and all kinds of different metadata properties. So it's not a part of your existing model. It's something that OData provides in its own model that wraps your existing model, your existing data model. So I did a little, it's not exactly a Photoshop or the best kind of graphics out there, but it's a little something I built real quick. This is your data model, and this is your OData wrapper. And I'm going to show you now how this comes into play. So instead, we're going to do, like, in addition to the 4 lines of code that we did last time, now we're going to implement the ADM model. So let me go ahead real quick in here and build a little private method. Let me shut that guy down first. So you see here, even though we have the count in place, it's not showing the count because there is no OData wrapper. So I'm just going to go in here and say private IEDM model. So this is what we want to return.
Okay.
So let me get, so if you do control period, that pulls in OData.edm, and then you can call this method whatever you want. So I'm just going to call it ADM model. All right, this is the mapper. This is what we care about. So let's see here. Why is it mad at us? Because I'm building it inside the method. It's like a scope thing. So let me go back here.
Yeah, you also weren't returning anything yet.
Right. So this guy here, yep.
You lost the brace.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. All right, let's do that. Space that in here. All right, there we go. So now I want to build that mapper for me. We're not doing any magic here. We're just trying to tell the ADM, we're telling OData, wrap my model around your wrapper model and give me that additional information that I need. So what we're going to do here is that I'm going to have here a convention model builder. So OData convention model builder.
Okay, and so this is a builder pattern that we see in a lot of Microsoft products where you're setting up an object that you can interact with to provide configuration and metadata and other information.
Yep. And now I'm just going to give that builder the model, which is the data set, sorry, entity set, which is the student, which is the model that we built last time.
Okay.
And we're going to tell OData this entity set are the students.
Okay.
Right? So now OData understand that there is this source of data that will return a set, a list of models that are of type student. Okay. The last thing I want to do here is just go and say, give me that data model. So builder, get ADM model.
Okay.
Voila. So now we built our wrapper, right? The next part here is to have that to be a part of the route builder. So OData understands that. So I'm just going to go here and say route your existing route builder. Route builder, I know how to spell. Then map OData service route, right? And then there's 3 parameters in here that we want to care about. You can give it a name. So what we're doing, this is the route name, right? You can use that as a configuration to go find a particular route, but since we're really doing a very simple operation here, we're just going to call it OData. And then in here, you could either choose your route to be /API or to be /OData.
Okay.
What I personally recommend from a best practice perspective, since this is OData wrapped model, it's better to say OData as a prefix, but you also can do /API.
Right, and you're just looking to keep this separate from regular RESTful endpoints that aren't necessarily OData enhanced.
Yeah. So this is OData, and then the last part is our mapper that we built. So this is get ADM model.
Okay.
Right? That's it. Now, OData doesn't need you to tell it if you're putting this on top of an existing controller. OData doesn't want you to tell it that this is an API controller. So you don't need that additional annotation to tell it which route and this is an API controller.
It's smart enough that when you go to
injects that, it just knows about it, right? So we're going to get rid of these two. I don't need to tell it the route anymore. It builds its own route, and it builds its own, it knows that this is an API controller. 1 second, there you go.
Caught up in the braces.
Yep. And everything else stays the same. So you have the enable query, you have HTTP GET.
Okay.
But these 3 lines of code that we added, maybe 4 lines of code that we added.
Magic.
4 lines of code. That'll give us a lot more power than you'd think OData would give you. Like, it honors something that we call the HADOS model or HADOS model, which is giving you ref links to where this object is. You can enable a lot of stuff. Let's go back here and say, this is, now that we're choosing OData, it's going to be OData/students.
Okay.
Everything works, right?
Right.
But what's happening here? Look at this. It has OData.context, and it's giving me a URL to something about these students, right?
Okay.
If you follow this, a lot of people are going to love this part because it saves a lot of time and work about particular things here. If I hit this, do you know what it's doing? It's giving me the XML for the model itself.
Now, is that if I request it for a JSON payload?
You could get it as JSON if you want.
But it's basically giving me the schema. So I just hit the endpoint, and without knowing anything about
the model,
you
already know what.
It's going to pass that back to me.
So why is this important for some developers? Why is this important? Because normally, like in a lot of applications, distributed systems, if you're building a bunch of microservices or something, people build a NuGet package that have the model, or they shell the model in source control, and when that model changes, things break.
Right.
But if you have the schema in your API call, what happens? You could build the model on the fly out of that schema. So your application, your client will never break out of that because you already know what kind of model you're getting back.
Is that something you're doing?
That's something I'm doing personally, actually.
Okay.
I like to call it like it's not the right scientific term. I like to call it fluid API client, meaning that it adjusts itself automatically based on what kind of contract that the API, the source, is sending.
And that's something that I mentioned, sort of the correlation, because it's the big buzzword with GraphQL. But that's a similar thing. You can ask it, what is my schema?
Yeah.
And we've got this just with a few lines of code. It's introspected
yep.
the model and provided that information. Very good.
Yep, absolutely. In addition to a bunch of some useful information, it'll take you back to the docs to Open Data Protocol, go back, see what it's doing, see the types, the name of the property, everything you want, right?
Okay.
So, all right. So this is great. Now, but the thing that people were asking about, how do I get a count out of that? So if I go back here and say count equal true, what's happening here, you have a new property.
Data count.
Data count, right? It's telling you, how much in your database do you have, even if your polling right now is not exactly matching the entire set in the database.
Okay.
So there's more to that, though, and I'm just gonna, there's a lot of properties, hopefully we're gonna do some OData series around this, but there's a lot of properties that you can enable to pull in all what OData can offer you. But what I'm going to show you here is just one more thing, just for, just show how powerful the EDM model is when you integrate it with your existing API. So I'm just gonna go in here and go to the students controller, and this enable query is not just a simple tag. It has a lot of properties that you can leverage. If you do control, just a second, if you do control shift space, you can see how many properties, what functions you can allow, what properties you can enable. You can do a lot of stuff in here.
So you're starting with kind of open-ended enable query, but what you're saying is if you want to constrain the queries with special parameters or whatever, this is a list of ways you can tamp that down and prevent people from asking for the world.
Security.
So to speak.
Yep, security. And to make sure that, and also in addition to that, look at this. This is on the route level. like on the controller method level. So you can open some security things for like some properties for some endpoint. You can close it from others. It's up to you if you want to allow anonymous calls with additional functionality. It's up to you. But anyways, what I want to show you here, just another thing. There's something here called page size, right? And I can say page size equal 1.
Okay.
Just return 1 at a time.
Little impractical page size, but we'll roll with it
yes,
for now.
right. Yes, we need more data to show how much page size would be.
Right.
But if I do this, let me show you what this will do. It'll keep adding in more, and this is what I like to call it's very popular in an API world. Comes something called Hadios link or Hadios link. People pronounce it in all kind of different ways. Just referential to go get more data. Relational data.
So if I'm thinking of this, I think of my Twitter client, right? When I have refreshed information, there's so much information, then at the bottom, load more.
Yep.
And I click that load more. So what you're saying is this
Yep.
is going to follow that where it's giving me some data but saying load more.
Yep,
Okay,
absolutely.
let's see it.
So what's going to happen, if I go in here and say OData/students, it's only going to give me, my hypothesis is, it's one student at a time. And hey, do you want the next link for more data? If we go to this, it'll give me the next student. And then again, and there's something really cool about this, it'll give me the next student. And then the next student, but look what happens at the third student, there's nothing, it's not there anymore.
So we're at the end of the list.
You reach the end of the list.
Okay.
So it's already taken care, like if you're building your client, OData will help you keep that client as simple as possible. You don't have to worry about calling when there is no data. It's already telling you, if there is no data, I'm not going to give you that link. So when it's null, you're done. You've reached the end of the bottom of the barrel there.
Awesome.
Right? So all right, so that's what EDM can do for you. But this is great. Pagination is great. We can do all of that. But if we can display that on a client, that would be better, right? And I'm going to show you now how we're going to display that on a client. Let's go back here. So there's this really cool technology that everyone's talking about. And I'm personally, shout out to Daniel Roth and everybody around Daniel.
Steve Sanderson.
Yeah, all these geniuses. They're building a technology called Blazor. And it's the ability to run C# and .NET in the browser. For a back-end developer like myself, now I have this new realm and new field where I can actually build software in the browser.
You can use the full stack writing in the language that you're in all day long, which is C#
Yep.
on .NET.
Yep.
And it's, I know I bring it up too often, people tell me not to, but it's a dream that Silverlight began back in the day of being able to run C# in the browser. This is a technology that enables it, and it does it without plugins. It uses a technology called WebAssembly that is available in every modern browser, including phones.
Yep.
So I'm pretty stoked. So I'm assuming you've built us something in Blazor.
Yep, you bet. So just for starters, you'll notice here that there is a new project that I have here called WashingtonSchools.ui. But before I dive deeper into the details here, there's a couple of things. If you want to try this at home, and do try this at home, first of all, you need .NET Core 3.0, the preview version. You won't have to deal with preview versions for long because in .NET Conf, they said they're going to announce the final release of .NET Core 3.0. So that's great. Once you have .NET Core 3.0 as an official release, I have it in here. You want to make sure that you're enabling that in your Visual Studio because I know a lot of people are going to be like, I downloaded .NET Core 3, but I don't see
this is the enable preview version.
Exactly. So if you go in Visual Studio, you want to make sure use previews of the .NET Core SDK. You won't have to do that for long, but these are the little details. I don't want you to stay an hour or two at night trying to make it work. When it's just something as simple as that. When you do that, I'm just going to show you real quick. If you go in here and say create a new project, and you go to ASP.NET Core Web Application, and you select a project like this. I hope we don't lose our project. We didn't lose our project. So you see in the drop down here, you have ASP.NET Core 3. That's because you installed the .NET Core preview, 3.0. I think there's they just released a preview 7, which is great. And you have the Blazor option server side, right? This is what I'm using today to show you how we can leverage OData pagination.
And that's great too, because there's multiple flavors of Blazor. We're not going to get into them today, but server side is the one that will be released as a stable release with 3.0.
Yep.
Okay,
Absolutely.
great.
All right, so that's that. Now, since we closed the project, let's go back and try to open our project real quick. I think File, Recent Projects, Washington School. Preview is newer, recommended. Yeah, sure. All right. So what do I have here? When you start a Blazor project, you have pages that you can write C# code in, and you need to teach your UI about the model that you're working with, so the student model in this case, and you need to build a service that will make that API call for you. So the service that will call that local API that we just built, and the wrapper, the OData wrapper that wraps your client. I call it student's API response, and then the student itself. So let me walk you through what I did in here. So first of all, everything starts with a model, right? So the first thing I wanted to start with is the student model, which is exactly identical to the model that I have here in my API. So this
I'm just going to interject that with production project, if you have your model, these are demos, so we're keeping them simple, but if you have your model pulled out in a separate class library,
just reused.
You can share the exact same, and that's the beauty of Blazor, even though it's client-side code, the exact same DLL you use on the server, you can use on the client, so you would share that same model.
Yep, absolutely. Or you could just pull the schema and build your model on the front.
Right, exactly.
So there is that, right? So, all right, so we have that part, and then so if you have the student model, right, you have the student API response. And why did I have the student API response here? Is because I want to leverage that count. If we're showing you pagination today with Blazor, then we need to know how much students are in the system and how much we can paginate until we get to the end of the data that we have, the stack that we have. All right, so you're building a model, and we're building an API response. The most important thing you want to go after to build after that is the student services. Right? And that's just a typical API call. I didn't bother having you wait while I'm typing the whole thing. It's just a simple HTTP client that's making an API call. This here is the URL, from best practices, like Jeremy says, from a production perspective, you want to keep all that stuff in a configuration file and then use that back in your system. But because this is a demo, I want everything to be right in front of you.
Simple.
Yeah, we're keeping it very simple.
And what C# developers will love is there's no crazy fetch or XML HTTP or any JavaScript library needed. You're just using the straight HTTP client to fetch the data. Okay.
And again, you can share that client with any other projects you have. It's all C#. We will not write one JavaScript code today. That I promise you. so what's happening, we're using, real quick, we're just doing the client. We're making an API call. You'll notice in here I'm passing in skip and top, which is basically, if you see the next link that OData was generating for you, it's saying skip how many. Here's the count, skip how many, and give me the top count of that person. And we're calling here, so this obviously won't work because we said it's OData instead of API. So I'm going to change that real quick. So now it's OData call. Good catch. That would, you and I would be scratching our head for a second there. But that's the OData call. And then I'm using everyone's probably Newtonsoft JSON libraries. We're just deserializing the response that comes back from the API into a student API response.
Okay.
Now, when you're building this in Blazor, please do not forget to register your service. So there's down here something called startup.cs. This is where you need to add a singleton student service. So when you're initiating your project, it will initialize a copy of that as a singleton. You don't have to renew a whole new client every time you make a call.
You just ask for, give me this service. You could even put an interface in front of it, say, give me the service for this interface, and it hands it off to you.
Yep. And normally, people use something called @transient if you want to enable dependency injection and pass in, if you want to add in an interface and then pass that to the controller, and then you get to unit test that, test drive that. That's very important, from a TDD perspective. So anyway, so don't forget to register the student service. Now let's get to the cool stuff about OData. There is this page, it's called fetch data,
Okay.
right? Before I dive into the HTML, which is not much, there are 3 functions down here that I want you to see. There is await student service get students async, which is the function, the API call that we built back here in the student service,
Yep.
right? And then what I'm doing on init async, when the page is starting to load, go and make that call,
Yep. So
give me the count, and give me the students,
Okay.
right? So that's one part. This here, these variables in here, they play the role of global variables. If you're building a JavaScript application, you have a global variable. If you're building any application, it's a global variable that you're adding things in. And the beauty about Blazor, it's using state. So you don't have to refresh the whole page in order for you to get new stuff. You know, it's working.
It's a single page application.
It's a SPA. Yeah, it's a single page application. So I'm passing it top to 1 because I want the first student. But you'll notice here 2 more functions. I have next, which makes the same call with when it adds to skip. So it adds 1, so skip 1 and give me top 1, so you're moving forward. And the previous is skip minus minus, skip back and give me the top 1. So these are 3 functionalities. This is all C# running in a .razor page. All right, that's all back end. That's all the build up, right?
Okay.
Now, what are we gonna do with this students list, right? If you go on the top here, you'll notice that if this students is null, you're just loading the page. You're saying I'm still trying to retrieve data. But then once you get the students, you get to break down in C# code. You get to do a for each. People who are familiar with Razor pages or Razor and ASP.NET MVC, this is exactly the same thing, except that we're breaking it down. We're iterating through these students and populating these properties in a simple HTML table, right? These are the headers, ID, name, score. This is the, okay, so that's that part. Now, I want a label to tell me how many is left as I'm going, I'm iterating. Right. So I'm adding a label in here that says, give me that count, which is also another variable that updates itself. And this is the skip plus 1. So when you're skipping, you tell me what's left. So there's 4 by 2, 4 by 3, and so on and so forth.
Sure.
Right? Now, we want to say if we have more data left, show a button. If you have more data in the previous, like if I'm moving forward and previously there's some data behind, then show a button that says previous.
Right. Don't show it if you're at the beginning, but if you've navigated forward, go ahead and show it.
Start showing it up. So this is also C# code. And in here, I'm doing the same thing for the next button, right? So moving previous, so when the next button, when you reach to the end of your set of students, if there is no more left,
don't show the next button.
Don't show the next button.
And this is nice too, because just by wrapping it in that condition, Blazor will handle all of the show the attribute, hide the attribute, everything for you. There's no, I've got to tweak CSS or do anything crazy. I'm just conditioning it and it's removing it or adding it.
Yes, sir. So the last thing here is how do we hook up, and this is the most amazing part, how do you hook up C# function written in pure C# code into an HTML button on the event of onClick? If you do button onClick, which is something I think standard HTML onClick, if you call the functions that we called in here, which is just like very native C# code, async task and async previous, it'll execute that and update the state for all the global variables that you have up here.
Nice.
Right? So let's see how that works. Okay. Before we do any of that, if you go to your solution, how do I run 2 projects at the same time? You go to properties and you go start a project and you say, I want to start multiple projects at the same time, right? Some people do right click, start debugging, and they kick off an instance out of Visual Studio independently. You could just have, you want to leverage that play button, and you're saying run the API first, make sure the API is running, and then run the UI. So this is the little configuration we're making here. And now comes the
moment of truth.
Moment of truth. I don't know. We're making a theory. Let's see if that's going to work, right?
I can tell you from dealing with tables and paging and grids, the old-fashioned manual JavaScript way, that this comes together. It's a beautiful thing.
All right, so this is our API. We know that our API is working because it's set to retrieve a bunch of values and whatnot. But if I go to fetch data, it's loading, and nothing. Let's see what happened. So let's go back here and see what happened. So we are, let's make sure we're calling the right endpoint. So this is /OData, right? And see, here's the thing. I don't have max stop. I'm calling top.
Oh, but you didn't enabled it.
So I got to enable max stop.
We talked about that before.
Isn't that the same thing that happened last time? So max stop, let's say max stop, and I'm going to give you like 1. You can't get more than 1 outside of my API.
Okay.
Right? Let's break everything and start over. Man, that's a déjà vu. That's exactly what happened last time. I swear, this is not premeditated or anything. This just happened.
You just wanted to show the opt-in nature of the interface.
Probably. So what if I do it right now?
And
more debugging.
Boom.
Right? So we have it's giving me 1 student at a time. Okay. I don't have a previous button. Nope. And it's giving me the count.
Sure.
I don't know, it's probably 1/4. I don't know, I speak Arabic, I go right to left.
That's right, right to left is
left
fine.
to right, I don't know. So anyways.
We welcome all approaches.
Right, they're Arabic numbers, so we're fine.
Okay.
So if I go like this, and then as I navigate, what's happening? The student name is changing.
Yep.
But there is a previous button.
Sure.
Then you get to the end. The page is not refreshing, but the data is working with you.
Perfect.
That's it. You can do, of course, a lot more leveraging Blazor. There's just the idea that we didn't write 1 JavaScript code and we have fully functional navigation, pagination in a table without having any previous knowledge about JavaScript is just amazing.
It is awesome. And we covered a lot of material in this short period. There is a blog post that you can access that gives you step-by-step instructions and details. We've given you a very easy link to access it. It is aka.ms/OData-Blazor. That's ODATA-BLAZOR. Check that out. It's got all the details of recreating what we showed you here. This is the power of OData and Blazor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
All right.